It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
Weekly syndicated show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football, keeping an eye on the national college football scene and other sports. We welcome to another edition of our show, AP as we see it. We want to mention our social media platforms, our YouTube channel. We have this broadcast at AP as we see it. Also on our X account, the links also on Facebook, also on Instagram as well, and also, Spotify has the audio version, and maybe we'll look into putting up the video version on Spotify as well. But those are our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, the X account, and the YouTube channel at AP as we see it. And remember that all my interviews that I conduct throughout the year, for instance, the SEC Media Days, they're all located on our YouTube channel. And also we had a chance to visit the Big Ten Media Days in Las Vegas. SEC was in Atlanta. We're going to be discussing that in the future segments here. But so check out our social media platforms. We want to thank our sponsors: Greer's Markets, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. They have Lucy's Famous Recipes. She has a book out. You can purchase it at the store or online. You have the groceries to go that will deliver to the home, the office, any venue. It's a football and sports-friendly site. So if you can't make it down to one of their locations, you could have things delivered when you're watching all those SEC football, basketball, baseball, softball, gymnastics, anything that your family gathers for and your friends. So go to Groceries to Go on the website for Greer's Markets. The weekly specials are online. Check those out. Have the coloring contest for the children. And for special occasions, always consider Greer's for the holidays, the birthdays, the anniversaries. They have the fresh produce, the dinner essentials, delicious food and snacks at unbeatable prices. And remember, Greer's is celebrating 109 years in business. 109. Think about that. 109 years, over a century. So they have some contests related to that 109 years as well, and they celebrate different days. So check that out on their website and when you visit the store. So remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. Also, we want to thank the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta, the spacious rooms, the beautiful indoor pool with the serene setting, the tropical setting. It's right in the heart of Atlanta. It's near all the happenings downtown. They have the restaurants there, the gift shop, outstanding breakfast. They cook to order on the weekends, and they have the lounge. So visit the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. I stayed there for the SEC Media Days. Once again, tremendous hospitality by Ben Jacquemour and his staff. So we want to thank our sponsors as well. We want to let you know on segment 2 and 3, our guest this week is Andy Burcham, friend of the show, voice of the Auburn Tigers. So that'll be segment 2 and 3. And we look forward to our discussion with Andy about the Plains. And there's some potential there with all these transfers, and especially the quarterback, Jackson Arnold, the 5-star recruit who played at Oklahoma. And now he's on the Plains with the quarterback whisperer, Hugh Freeze. So our topics this week, segment 1, we're going to be discussing the Walter Camp Football All-American team, the oldest in America. And so that's important to us. That's very important to us. Segment 4, probably we're going to discuss the SEC non-conference schedule. I'm going to have a bit about the Big Ten Media Days and the SEC Media Days. And then I'd like to make mention of a movie that I was able to review and at the SEC Media Days on that Sunday prior to the start of the week. Is Nothing But a Winner. Nothing But a Winner is going to be in theaters July 31st. And it might be a couple days extra in Alabama. I'm not sure, but it's really the story of Coach Paul W. Bryant of Alabama and Coach Nick Saban of Alabama, one of the schools he coached. And of course, Coach Bryant was at other schools as well. But it was very well done. We want to thank the producers and the director who invited us, and we really appreciate it. But I think it's a worthwhile feature film you can watch, and it documents the history of those two legendary coaches who everybody has their preference, which one was the best. Let's just say they were both pretty good, as Coach Bryant would probably say in his own modest, unpretentious way. But check out that movie, Nothing But a Winner, in theaters July the 31st. And like I said, it might be in a few days more in the state of Alabama. But anyhow, we're going to discuss the Walter Camp football All-American team. And you say, why should we do that? Well, it's the oldest All-America team in the country. Started in 1889. Yes, I said 1889, 136 years. The father of football, Walter Camp, he came up with the idea for the plays and the 11 people on each side, the line of scrimmage, many things. So he's the father of football. And his first team he came up with and comprised was 1889. The Walter Camp Football Foundation was formed in 1967. They've had All-American teams since then and events up in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm very familiar with that organization. I've attended many times. And so I want to mention the SEC players on the team. And the preseason 2025 team will start off with the wide receivers, Ryan Williams of Alabama, tight end Eli Stores of Vanderbilt, offensive line Caden Procton from Alabama, Jake Slaughter, University of Florida is the center. So that's 4 people on the offensive side. The first team, Walter Camp Football Foundation All-American preseason team. The defensive side, Dylan Stewart, South Carolina, the tremendous edge rusher. Colin Simmons, defensive line, another great edge rusher from Texas. You have Anthony Hill, the sensational linebacker of Texas. I think it's Anthony Hill Jr. You have Torian York, the linebacker from Texas A&M. You have Jermod McCoy, the defensive back from Tennessee, and Brett Thorson is the punter. So that's 4 people on the offense. You have 5 people on the defense plus the 1 special teams, Brett Thorson of Georgia. On the second team, Walter Camp Football American team, offensive line, Armage Reed Adams from Texas A&M, and Caden Green, offensive line, Mizzou. And on the defensive side, you have Tim Keenan III, Alabama, Whitweeks, LSU linebacker, Centarian Perkins, Ole Miss, Michael Taft, defensive back, Texas, and a kick returner, Rashawn Pleasant, is the transfer from Tulane at Auburn. So you have 2 offensive players on second team, and you have 4 defensive players on the second team, plus the 1 specialist. And starting in 2009, the NCAA used these 5 particular All-American teams. The Associated Press, that started in was established in 1925. The American Football Coaches Association was 1945. The Football Writers Association of America, I vote for that team, that's 1944. And the Sporting News was 1934. So they take all those teams, and to figure out if it's going to be consensus or unanimous, they use those teams, I guess, since 2009, I was told. But anyway, it's important to recognize the Walter Camp Football All-American team because, like I said, 136 years old. And once you're a part of that group, you can go back every year because they have events. It's kind of a unique All-America team, unlike the others. And they, like I said, they started that foundation, bringing in people for events 1967. So I always tell the players that I come across, if you make that team, I think it's vitally important if you attend those events. And the other thing about these All-American teams we bring up is because down the road, if a player has reached All-American status, they have to be on the first team and it has to be a recognized All-America team. And those teams that I mentioned are definitely recognized by the National Football Foundation as to be under consideration if you're on the first team. You cannot be on the ballot. You could be a first team All-American, but maybe it's not one of those teams or one of the recognized teams by the National Football Foundation. So you can never be in the College Football Hall of Fame. That's the rule. And sometimes that's very difficult for players who had reached out to me to try to help them or assist them in getting on to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. When I do the research, I find out that the All-American team, where they were a first team member, is not one of the All-America teams recognized by the National Football Foundation. But you can see of the Walter Camp Football Foundation, there's, like I said, there's from the first team out of all those 25 players that are recognized. They have some special teams players. There's 4 on the offense and 5 on the defense. That's 9 plus the special team. So that's 10 out of 25 on the first team from the SEC. And on the second team, there's 2 on the offense and 4 on the defense plus the special. That's 7. So that's 7 out of the 25 as part of the second team Walter Camp Football Foundation All-America team. So the SEC is well represented as usual, and they have some outstanding players, and we'll see how it all develops. People can stay healthy and maximize their performances. I'm sure you're going to see a lot of these names that we just announced right now. But anyhow, we're going to come back with our very special guest, the voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Burcham. He's been there quite a few years, and Andy is a very good broadcaster. So we look forward to speaking with Andy Burcham, the voice of the Auburn Tigers. So we'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it, in our very special guest, a friend of the show for many years, Andy Burcham, the voice of the Auburn Tigers. Welcome to AP as we see it, Andy. How are you?
Good to be with you today, AP, at a very exciting time of the year.
Oh, my goodness. People asking me all the time, I'm sure they ask you, can't you wait for football? And I say, look, if I can wait because I don't want to wish my life away. We do things in the summer, right, Andy?
That's exactly right. I got married 21 years ago, and I told my wife, then my fiance, I said, I can guarantee you 1 month of the year that I'm not going to be calling games, and that's July. So that's when we got married. So the month of July is mine. Every other month is tied to football or basketball and baseball. So I like to enjoy the summer, but obviously we're rolling downhill now to the season opener at Baylor for this Auburn team.
Andy, have you broadcast at Baylor before in Waco, Texas?
I've never done a football game in Baylor.
Football, yeah.
I have done women's basketball at Baylor on a couple of occasions, but never football. I'm looking forward to seeing that relatively new stadium right there on the Brazos, and a Friday night. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's their blackout night. They'll be in all black. Auburn will be in its all white uniform, so there'll be a stark contrast when the Tigers and the Bears meet on the 29th in Waco.
And Andy, you'll have the full attention of the national audience. I believe that's the best game that evening. So that's great for the Auburn and the SEC.
Yeah, I think they loved it if it weren't on a Friday, just because it will go up against high school football in Texas and certainly in Alabama. That's the one downside of it. But with the TV folks, you have no say. You play when they have the game, and it will be a marquee game between two very, very good teams. I think this Baylor team is really good potentially from an offensive standpoint. I think Auburn has more talent than it's had in quite some time on both sides of the ball. But let's get out there and you got a month to prepare basically for that opener down at Baylor.
Right. Hugh Freeze, he said the team is bigger, faster, and stronger. That's with the addition of some transfers and people getting more mature. I mean, I think the wide receivers, would you say, Andy, maybe that's one of the strong suits for Auburn this year, the strong unit?
Yeah, no question about that. I mean, you lose a guy like Keandre Lambert-Smith, who came to Auburn from Penn State a year ago and turned out to be Auburn's most consistent receiver and is getting a shot with the Los Angeles Chargers right now. And from what I'm gathering, is having a really good camp. But you have guys like Cam Coleman and Malcolm Simmons and Perry Thompson and Bryce Kane, all of those guys coming back. And then you add the likes of Horatio Fields, who transferred in from Wake Forest. Folks are really excited about Eric Singleton, who was really good a year ago at Georgia Tech and brings, 56 catches, almost 800 yards in, and blazing speed for Auburn. And I think we could see Eric in a number of roles for Auburn, not only at wide receiver, but in the return game as well. But yeah, that room, I think, is Auburn's best room. And I think it's Auburn's best wide receiver room, AP, in quite some time.
Yeah, I think so too. And they're excited about that speed. I know Singleton from Georgia Tech, and also Horatio Field. He had some good numbers with Wake Forest as well, and he's kind of big. 6'2", 200. I consider that pretty physical in this day and age for a receiver, because some of them are in the 5'10" range, but he's about 6'2". So excellent receivers with some maturity and some experience and production. So that's what you look for in these transfers. Sometimes you're taking a wild card on a five-star who hadn't produced, but these guys have produced along the way.
Well, this was such a good wide receiver class as freshmen a year ago. And Auburn had to use these guys. I mean, the talent was just too good.
Right.
And guys like Perry Thompson and Malcolm Simmons and certainly Cam Coleman got a lot of playing time a year ago. I mean, Coleman had 37 catches, 8 touchdowns, 598 yards, and was better at the end of the year than he was at the start. And they love the potential of Thompson and Simmons and Kane. But, all of these guys were freshmen last year. Now they're sophomores. They're veterans
Right.
on this ball club. And then you add the likes of Horatio Fields and Eric Singleton. Cam Coleman is, as mentioned, is just a fabulous sophomore. But and they've added some in the offseason as well. Eric Smith is a freshman out of Selma, Southside High School in Selma, that's 6'4". You talked about the size, AP. Auburn has some really good size at the in the wide receiver room. We're all, very excited to see how this produces, and the guy that gets them the ball this year in Jackson Arnold, who transfers in from Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's the segue to the quarterbacks. As always, we have to speak about that person. And Jackson Arnold, a 5-star recruit coming, I think he's from Texas, went to Oklahoma, had some moments, but it was better to move to the plains and better scenery and a different situation. Hugh Freeze, the quarterback whisperer, this might be his moment with this quarterback.
Well, Hugh Freeze was interested in Jackson Arnold coming out of high school. Everybody was. I mean, he was the National Gatorade Player of the Year.
Right.
Coming out of Higher High School in Denton, Texas. He ends up going to Oklahoma. And, it just didn't work out for Jackson at Oklahoma. And now he comes to Auburn as a junior. I think had a good spring camp. It was good to have him in for spring football for Auburn. He's been here throughout the summer, working with this very good receiving core, and now gets ready for the most important month of his career, in my opinion, this lead up to that game at Baylor. So, I mean, he goes back to his home state for game 1 against Baylor. And a guy, I'm assuming, I've not looked at this. I need to look this up. I don't know if Jackson has played against Baylor in his career, because when he was a freshman, they were in the same league. They're in the Big 12 together.
Right.
So, there's going to be a lot on his plate going into the season, but he's the clear number 1 guy for Auburn at quarterback right now. And he has some talent to throw the football to, and needs to step up. He needs to be the guy at quarterback for Auburn. If Auburn is to take that step forward in this 2025 season.
Yeah, not very far from his hometown, Denton to Waco. That's not a big ride. And then, in all fairness to anybody who played quarterback at Oklahoma last year, I think they lost about a half a dozen receivers to injury. So I don't think it was too fair to judge him on that year, really.
Well, whether you do or not, kind of up to you at this point. But he is looking for a fresh start at Auburn. Auburn knew that it needed to bring in at least one transfer quarterback. They brought in 2 because Ashton Daniels has been here since the summer after graduating from Stanford.
Stanford, yes.
Had good numbers a year ago at Stanford. And then there's the outstanding freshman in Deuce Knight, who, boy, I tell you, just you watch him in practice and you can see the incredible potential that he has. The size at 6'4" and 217, just outstanding potential and athletic ability and throwing motion. And I think in addition to Arnold, we will see both Deuce Knight and Ashton Daniels in situations this year. I don't know if Hugh Freeze held his preseason press conference this week, and when asked about the number 2 quarterback, he said it's more of a situational standpoint.
Right.
All 3 of these guys can run the football. All 3 of these guys can throw the football. So Auburn has some options at the quarterback spot, but it is clearly led by Jackson Arnold right now.
Yeah, I didn't even have to ask the question. That was my next question, Andy, if he's going to use any of those other quarterbacks that are so talented in their own right. So that'll keep some defensive coordinators up at night, maybe in that red zone or something, or, whenever he brings it in. And I like the fact that he's a left-hander, Deuce Knight.
Yeah. Just a terrific throwing motion, really strong arm. Like most that signed with Auburn back in December, he was here for the spring. So he has a semester under his belt, a semester and a summer under his belt to get used to being a college student, to get used to practices. He went through the spring practice and the 8-day practice. And so if we were talking about this 20 years ago, AP, we would be talking about guys reporting to camp for the first time, and moms and dads are dropping them off at the Waltos Performance. That's not the case. They're here now.
No.
Almost all these guys are here now. There is no more report day. They've been here and working all summer long. So that's very different. And I think it will benefit the likes of a Deuce Knight and Jackson Arnold, as mentioned, that have been here through the spring.
Yeah, getting acclimated. About a minute or so in this segment, Andy. Back to Oklahoma for Jackson Arnold. I'm trying to be at that game, Andy. I'm trying to be with you that weekend in Norman. So what about that game?
Yeah, I can only imagine what he will go through when he goes back to Oklahoma and plays in Norman. It will be Auburn's first trip to Norman. It's my first trip to Norman. I've never been to Norman, Oklahoma, so I'm looking forward to making that trip. I think we'll go there this year in basketball as well. But, I can only imagine what will go through his mind and how he'll deal with that week. That, Auburn plays 3 away games before Georgia comes to town in early October. The game against Baylor and then back-to-back A&M and Oklahoma. So the month of September is really important. How does Jackson Arnold handle that week going back to Oklahoma? Because there will be, he's going to get that question over and over, and it'll just be very interesting to see how he handles that week of football.
Yeah, I'm glad it's not the first one. I'm glad he's going to Baylor first for his sake, get back to his home state. So, but anyway, Andy, we're going to be right back after these messages with the next segment with our friend Andy Burcham, voice of the Auburn Tigers. We'll be back after these messages with AP as we see it.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it with our very special guest, Andy Burcham, the voice of the Auburn Tigers. And Andy, we always talk about the quarterback first in those first few moments, but can he be protected by that offensive line?
Well, and that's a big part. And I think, AP, as we're so early into the summer camp or fall camp, however you want to call it, Auburn likes what it has up front to protect the quarterback, to develop the holes for Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb and Darrell Robinson and Alvin Henderson, but the protection of Jackson Arnold. And it starts with the middle 3, Connor Lew, who has been a starting center for Auburn since he stepped foot on this campus. And then Dylan Wade, who has played really everywhere on the offensive line, but is best at guard, and Jeremiah Wright at the other guard. And then Auburn will have 2 new tackles at this point. Granted, I mean, we're very, very early. With Xavier Chaplin on the left side, that protect side for Jackson Arnold, and Mason Murphy on the right side. And you got a guy like Too Tall Miller that has played both tackle spots. According to Hugh Freeze at his press conference this week, all 5 of his starters right now, Chaplin, Wade, Lew, Wright, and Murphy, have garnered attention from NFL scouts. They're all guys that they believe are very draftable going in. I'm not sure we could say that about Auburn's offensive line in quite some time. Auburn likes what it has on the offensive front. It has some depth behind that 5, and it needs, those guys need to play like that this season for this offense to excel, to be sure.
Yeah, the tackles transferred from Virginia Tech, Chaplin and Mason Murphy, USC.
Right.
So yeah, that's nice to have those tackles. You feel confident, especially if you're the quarterback and the good person in the center. Good
Well,
up the middle.
yeah, Connor Lew is a guy that as soon as Hugh Freeze stepped on this campus, he talked about Connor Lew's going to be in the NFL one day, and that offensive line is good enough that they can take a guy like Tate Johnson, who has played center guard, I think even a little bit of tackle, and move him to tight end full time this year. So I think that's why among the reasons. I mean, Auburn does not have a great deal of experience at tight end. Tate Johnson played there a little bit last year as a blocking guy, but they can move him full time to tight end and let that depth develop in the offensive front.
That's the transfer on the outside. Preston Howard is in the tight end from Maryland. Is that right, Andy?
Right. Yes, he's a transfer from Maryland. Had 37 catches and about 350 yards and a touchdown with the Terrapins in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Look for Brandon Frazier though to step up at the tight end. I think he is the guy at tight end after breaking his foot a year ago against New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. And the running backs you mentioned, that's probably by committee. Would you say?
It is at this point, and that's a little bit different because there's always been Jarquez Hunter or Tank Bigsby or Kerryon Johnson, that you've always had that guy. And there may be that guy this year, but I don't think they have that guy going into camp at this point. And the two guys that will lead the way are Cobb and Alston. And they signed Darrell Robinson, the transfer from UConn, but he's been battling an injury, and so he's getting his first work in practice as Auburn opens camp. So we don't know exactly what we have in Darrell Robinson at this point. So who emerges, I think, is one of the big question marks. I don't think it's a question mark as a negative. It's just who is that guy that's going to emerge at the tailback spot. But I think 2 to possibly 3 will be getting a lot of reps early on.
Yeah, I like to have a lot of talent at the running back position. I like to swap out myself personally, and also Robinson. He played a little bit at Charlotte too, Charlotte and UConn. Yeah. The defensive side, I was at the SEC media days when you walk by Keldrick Falk. Impressive.
He's up to 285 pounds. Does he look 285 pounds to you?
No, he does not. No, I wasn't going to say 285. No.
6'6", 285. That's his looking official numbers. And he doesn't look that. I mean, he's a physical specimen, and with talent to match, and has been that guy since he was a freshman at Auburn. Yeah. And he comes into his junior year. Obviously, he will be talked about as a first-round draft pick at the end of this season. I mean, this is his year to shine for Auburn, and he's been terrific for Auburn. Auburn on the other side has Kieran Crawford, a transfer from Arkansas State. Right now, a couple of youngsters as well, and Jamonta Waller out of Picayune, Mississippi, who's a freshman. Chris Murray, a transfer in from Sam Houston State. Amaris Williams is a guy that Auburn wants to step up in his sophomore year out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. A great deal of promise there. I think Auburn really likes what it has on the two edges. The question, and they've got the bodies, but how do they develop the talent and the depth at nose tackle and defensive tackle right now? I think if there's a question mark for Auburn defensively, it's those middle two spots on that defensive front. Bobby Jamison, Trevor, Malik Blockton, Dallas Walker, Jay Hardy, Darian Smith, Malik Autry, Zykevius Walker are all names that you're going to see Auburn in the middle of that defensive front.
Yeah, if that middle is leaky, it really creates a problem. But but I think Auburn usually plays pretty good defense, so I feel confident about that side. It's the offense for me because you can relieve that pressure, and I think the offense is going to be much better.
It has the potential to be as good as Auburn's had in quite some time.
Right, yeah. The kicking game, Alex McPherson's going to be returning. He had that illness. I mean, hopefully he's feeling better. I mean, that's a struggle when you have that chronic illness like that. So hopefully he comes back.
Basically missed all of last season for Auburn, coming off of a year in which he did not miss a kick. He did not miss a kick 2 years ago.
Glad you repeated that, yeah.
So he is back. We're told that he is healthy. He's one of the guys when I go to practice, I'm going to watch.
Yes.
Auburn's kicking game a year ago struggled. And at times it was unfair to Towns Magoo who was a walk-on freshman coming in for Auburn, that role turned to him after McPherson had to miss so much of the season a year ago. And I think Magoo will be Auburn's kickoff guy this year. He has a great leg, but McPherson is the guy to kick the field goals and the extra points. And then Hudson Cack, who transfers in from Seymour, Australia, another of the Australian guys that comes in at the corner. Quite a personality for Auburn this year. I like Auburn's kicking game. I really do. I think it's going to be much more solid than it was a year ago.
Yeah, that's important in these SEC games where it's so competitive. It's the special teams, a play on defense, a quarterback to lead a drive. All those things contribute to the close victories for a team if they can deliver. An interesting transfer for me is Rashawn Pleasant from Tulane.
Yeah. And a guy that is by position a cornerback. So how does he fit into that role, either at the corner or the star, than the nickel? For Auburn, but is also was at Tulane, a fabulous return guy.
Yes.
On kickoffs, especially. So is that a role that he has? Do we see Eric Singleton with the great speed at wide receiver and in that spot? Do we see more of Malcolm Simmons in the return role for Auburn this year? I think potentially special teams take a big step forward for Auburn. And now, listen, as far as coverages are concerned, and you've got a new guy in Chad Lunsford, who's the special teams coach in his first year back at Auburn. So that was a question mark for Auburn a year ago. I think that it's going to be a strength for the Tigers this year. Yeah,
what an issue to have so many people to return the football with all that speed. Right. Yeah, that's great to have that. They can't kick it away from both of them if you put them back there. You have to kick it one or the other. About the secondary end, Andy, what do you think? Because, this is a past quarterback era. What about that secondary for Auburn?
A year ago, and it was kind of like Auburn's wide receiver room a year ago. There were a lot of freshmen that had to play a lot of minutes for Auburn in the secondary because of injuries and depth. And I think that pays off for Auburn this year.
Right. Dividends, yeah.
Caleb Harris at safety for Auburn. Champ Anthony is back for Auburn after the broken leg against Arkansas when he was playing his best football as an Auburn Tiger. Sylvester Smith is a redshirt freshman. He is back. Jay Crawford had 7 pass breakups a year ago. He is back as well. So it is, if you look at just the classification, the classes, there's still some sophomores that are starting, but all of these guys played important minutes for Auburn a year ago. And I think that's important for Auburn this season. I like Auburn's secondary because it logged so many important minutes. You talked about it early in the first segment, AP. This is a bigger Auburn football team across the board. I was going through my spotting board today and updating the weights, and just about everybody is bigger and stronger than it was even coming out of spring. So, I mean, this is a team that is bigger and stronger as it goes into this season.
I want to mention one other transfer from Miami of Ohio, one of the better cornerbacks, I guess, in the MAC coming on board.
Yeah, that's Rayon Strader.
Yes.
6 foot, 185 pounds out of Pittsburgh, transferred in from Miami of Ohio.
Right.
And listen, he right now he could be playing behind Kayan Lee or Jay Crawford. He may be the guy. You've got a month now, but he is certainly in the mix in the depth for Auburn, and good size at corner at 6 foot. You've got a little bit of size there at 6 foot. So yes, he is a guy that I think that's going to play an important part for Auburn in the secondary this year.
Yeah, always love the depth at cornerback when they bring in all those receivers play after play. You need those cornerbacks. But anyway, hey, Andy, I want to thank you so much. I hope to see you down there. Hope to see you in Oklahoma. That's the first shot anyway. But thank you so much, Andy Burcham, the voice of the Auburn Tigers. And check them out. Andy, how could they find you? How could they find some of your things?
All right. I'm on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Burcham,
here we go.
04, a weekly Talking Tigers podcast, so you can find anywhere of your podcasts, and it takes a look back for the most part at former Auburn Tigers and what they've done with their lives, their Auburn story. That's what we do with the Talking Tigers podcast. We'll start Tiger Talk on August 18th. It'll run Mondays throughout football season with Coach Freeze, and so we look forward to the start of our broadcast season starting on August 18th. And of course, it begins in earnest with football at Baylor on that Friday night.
Hey, thank you so much, Andy Burcham, voice of the Auburn Tigers. We'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it.
Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use groceries to go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it.
And we're back with AP as we see it, and we'd like to thank our very special guest, Andy Burcham, voice of the Auburn Tigers. 2 good segments. Andy's very versatile, does the basketball and the baseball, and he's knowledgeable and thorough. So we always like to have Andy come on the show, and we've known for a number of years. Hope to see him in our travels this season across the country. But Auburn's an interesting team. A competitive league, as we said, and a couple of plays can make the difference, but are you winning those plays? And that'll get you in the W column. If you don't, you're on the wrong side in the L. But Auburn, I think, should be better, but it's just a highly competitive league. Everybody believes they invited transfers and they acquired transfers and other people that can help their team improve in the W column, and Auburn feels the same way. Bigger, stronger, faster. That was Hugh Freeze. He mentioned that. We just want to make mention, we were at the SEC Media Days in Atlanta. You probably saw some of those reports we did with all the people there, players and media members and different things and photos. So check our Facebook, our Instagram, our X account, and our Spotify from that coverage in Atlanta a couple weeks ago, and also on our YouTube channel at AP as we see it. I also had the chance last week to be in Las Vegas. We had all those reports from the Big Ten. It was very interesting. I just want to tell you a few things about the SEC versus the Big Ten media days. The Big Ten was interesting. Each coach was at the podium for 15 minutes, the main podium for 15 minutes. Some of the coaches spoke for a few moments and then took questions. But some of the coaches, they're promoting their program. They might have spoken for 12, 13 minutes, and there was only time for one question. But the beauty of the Big Ten and the accessibility that separated itself from the SEC was each coach went to a smaller table with a microphone and was available for 45 minutes. So you're right next to that coach. You're having conversations with the coach. So I really love the Big Ten accessibility at their football media days. And it was in Las Vegas. I always have a good time there. And it was a spacious ballroom, a lot of availability, and it was plenty of room, and you weren't tripping over anybody. So I really like that accessibility. And then you had 30 minutes with each player at a smaller table podium situation. So you had conversations with the players and anybody else was around. If you wanted to speak to an athletic director, it might have been available, any administrator. So I really enjoyed my first time at the Big Ten media days. And I think that's a trend to try to go every year to the SEC and then the Big Ten. I try to get around to as many as I can. Sometimes they're simultaneous. The ACC was the same week as the Big Ten, so I couldn't be there. The Big 12, I wasn't available for that one, but maybe I'll get a chance to do 4 of them in 1 year, and maybe another one as well. But we just want to give praise to the Big Ten for their media days, our first time, and we love the accessibility of the head coaches and the players, administrators, et cetera. But now we want to delve into another subject matter, is the SEC non-conference versus the Power 4 opponents. And one thing I noticed, I think almost every coach that came to the podium for the Big Ten, they used the word best, the best conference. But many of them also incorporated the SEC into their comments because they realize the SEC is outstanding as well. So there's that verbal jousting from the head coaches, from the commissioners, from the players, from the administrators. I think it's fun for the game of college football, but you prove yourself on the field, not with slogans, not with the the verbal jousting and the jabs that you see in the off season, the talking season. So, but it's fun. So let's look at some of these Power Four opponents, and then I think it was Kurt Signetti maybe, or I can't remember which coach, but he said there's 12 SEC teams, and they play 29 G5 teams and 7 FCS teams. So that's 36 games. 36 games for 12 SEC teams. It's against the G5 or 7 FCS teams. So he made that known to everybody who was listening that he thought that the SEC could, and I think he's implying that they can do much better scheduling, stronger opponents. But anyway, we'll start, and we're going to go alphabetically with Alabama. Alabama has 2 Power 4 teams opening the season on the August 30th at Florida State in Tallahassee, and then they play a home game against Wisconsin from the Big Ten. You have Arkansas, huge game. They've never played. I'll be keeping my eye on this game. The 27th of September, Arkansas hosts Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, come to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Auburn on the 29th, which is a Friday, best game of the day at Baylor, Waco, Texas. So they played a handful of times, not very many times. So that's at Baylor. That's a difficult opener for them on the road with a new quarterback. Florida, on the 20th, they travel to Miami, in-state rival out of the ACC. Baylor is out of the Big 12 there. I just want to backtrack. But Florida plays Miami in the ACC. And then, of course, on the 29th, their in-state rival, main rival, Florida State, on the 29th of November from the ACC. Georgia on the 28th is at Georgia Tech. Ooh, that game was really exciting last year, multiple overtimes. Kentucky, in-state rival, at Louisville, and the Georgia Tech's from the ACC. Louisville's from the ACC, plays Kentucky on the 29th of November. Georgia Tech game's on the 28th of November, I believe. LSU opens this season. Big ball game. Tigers everywhere, Death Valleys everywhere. On the 30th of August, LSU at the Clemson Tigers out of the ACC. I guess they're the favorite in that conference, Clemson. Ole Miss, they don't have a P4 opponent this year, so they're one of the few teams. Mississippi State on the 6th of September plays Arizona State. Good football team. They host the Wildcats. Fear the Fork. Mizzou on the 6th of September plays the Border War, Kansas. I'll be at that game. First time I'll see that game. I'm really excited. They haven't liked each other for 200 years, I guess, almost. Oklahoma hosts Michigan for the first time. They've only played once in the history as the Orange Bowl. I think it was 1976. That's September 6th. They play Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines, who should be improved offensively because of the quarterback position. I believe Bryce Underwood, the highly recruited freshman. South Carolina on the 31st, which is a Sunday of August, at Atlanta, they'll play Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech out of the ACC, and then, of course, their in-state rival on the 29th of November, Clemson. Tennessee at Atlanta as well the day before. On August 30th, they play Syracuse out of the ACC. That'll be a good ball game. There'll be orange everywhere. The Syracuse orange and the Tennessee orange. So the orange everywhere for that ball game. I think it'll be highly competitive myself. Texas on the August 30th, probably the biggest game of the day at Ohio State. That's a repeat of the Cotton Bowl, the playoff game. So Arch Manning and company will be facing Ohio State with their new quarterback in Columbus, Ohio. They played a handful of times. Been some pretty good battles along the way historically. Texas A&M travels to Notre Dame on September 13th. Notre Dame and Independent. Of course, Ohio State's out of the Big Ten, just backtracking. And then Vanderbilt plays at Virginia Tech on the 6th of September. So that's 18 games against P4 opponents. So the only one that doesn't have a game against a P4 opponent, Power 4 opponent, is Ole Miss. So there are 16 teams in the league. A couple teams that play 2, as we mentioned, but 18 Power 4 opponents. So, and those games are important. They're pendulum type games. People are thinking that because there's multiple selections in the college football playoff, you're saying if a team loses, it doesn't matter. Well, that's not exactly 100% correct, because you can improve your seeding if you're winning these non-conference games against a Power 4 opponent. So never forget that all the games count. And Mike Slive was famous. I think he was the chairperson of the basketball committee at the time, former Southeastern Conference commissioner. And his mantra was, who did you play? Where did you play them? And what was the outcome? So it's always important when you lace it up and you play some of these teams and other conferences. You're trying to win as many as you can for your individually for your program, but also for your conference. It helps you with the strength of schedule, and that's a critical factor when the 13-person selection committee, headed by retired Lieutenant General Rich Clark, the executive director of the college football playoff. So that matters, who you play, where you play, and what was the outcome. So it not only improves your program's status, but also the conference. So people, I tell them all the time, if you're for the SEC, you should root for them every game because it affects your team. If your opponent in the SEC loses to a non-conference Power 4 team, that means you're going to probably have to beat them because it'll drag you down. So you want all the teams in your conference to win ball games and be successful. But anyway, we want to thank our guest, Andy Burcham. We want to thank our sponsors, Greer's Markets, 29 locations, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. The Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. And we want to thank you for listening in at our YouTube channel, AP As We See It, Spotify, all our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X account. And we'll be back next week with another edition of AP As We See It.